Good morning to those of you in our sanctuary and to those who are viewing us online. Hello. Welcome and thank you for being with us. My name is Jim Newtown. I am your worship associate today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Flint. Periodically, we'd like to state that as a congregation, we acknowledge that we stand on the traditional lands of the Council of Three Fires and the Anishinaabe peoples, who were the indigenous inhabitants of Michigan. Our congregation supports indigenous-led organizations and grassroots change movements, and we encourage others to do as well. We also support indigenous-led campaigns in their quest to have carefully chosen lands returned to them. At this point, I'm instructed, insert your words about UUism or what makes UUCF special to you. Briefly, please. Personal warning, my briefly may not be the same that was intended. My second marriage ended in divorce in 1999. I was quite devastated. Not too long after that, I moved back to Flint from Owasso and started attending here for various reasons. One of them, by the way, I realized that I was seeking a sense of belonging, the third in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for those of you into that stuff. Eventually, I started dating some, and I would sometimes delve into the world of online dating, particularly Match.com. It was there I came on the phrase, "I'm spiritual but not religious," which confused me. Personally, I came to the opinion that it all depended on what you defined as spiritual and religious. Many people seem to view religious as referring to an organized religion. With apologies to Will Rogers, I am not a member of any organized religion. I'm a Unitarian Universalist. Typically, in my opinion, the problem for most people is that any specific religion might or might not relate to one's spiritual being and beliefs. I found this rejection of religion strange, since I had found a religion that didn't tell me what to believe, but had the stated goal of helping me figure out what I believed. Our third principle, for example, is acceptance of one another and encouragement in spiritual growth in our congregations. And our fourth principle is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So if you are looking for a congregation which encourages you to connect intellectual and spirituality, to accept all aspects of your being, and to be open to others from the world around you, give us a try. That's who we are. For example, our special speaker today, Reverend Leonetta Bugleisi, will be speaking about how to use dreams to help connect intellect and spirituality. If you would like more information about Unitarian Universalism or our congregation, please feel free to contact one of our ministers or our office. That contact information can be found at uuflint.org. Unfortunately, we have several announcements this morning, and as always, you will find more details about most of them in your weekly e-update. I've organized them in order of due date. So, today's Sunday, tomorrow's Monday. Have a nice and thoughtful Memorial Day. On Tuesday, okay, this gets a little confusing, the Flint Institute of Music is offering free tickets to the Flint Repertory Theater production of The Fantastics on Thursday, June 9th at 10 a.m. at the Elwood Theater. Thursday, June 9th. There are 40 free tickets available for this beloved theater piece. Please call or write Joan Smalley with the number of tickets you need by noon on Tuesday, May 31st. That's why it's Tuesday. It's the deadline. Wednesday, the voting has started for second Sunday offerings for next fiscal year. Please send an email to office@uuflint.org as to which agencies you would like us to support this next year. Voting ends Wednesday, June 1st. Also Wednesday postponement. This Wednesday was to be the last night of book discussion on the book Chevy in the Hole. Unfortunately, there is a concert at the Cork this Wednesday that everyone seems to want to go to. So this has been postponed until Wednesday, June 15th at 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome. See your e-update for the Zoom code. Thursday, the board is going to make a decision on reorganizing many of the structures of the church. There is still time to make your opinion known. Contact any of the board members before 4 p.m. on Thursday, June 2nd. Details of changes are available in the newsletter, and hard copies are in the narthex. And finally, don't forget that our annual congregational meeting for all UUCF members will be immediately following the service on June 12th, 2 weeks from today. Details will be coming soon. For more information, watch your e-update or contact Sue Owen Kinsey. And also, please join us for a 10 or 15-minute discussion after the service today with our speaker. Online Zoom participants will have an opportunity to listen in, and then we will all have coffee hour online or in person. Or if you wish to skip that, you can start coffee hour early. Okay. Opening up, chalice lighting. Where is it? Oh, I forgot the one item that I need.
On the table, Jim.
We light this chalice in recognition of our fifth principle, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. And you're welcome to join me in reciting our covenant, recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service. We gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Good morning. So some of you might recall from when I visited here about once a month a few years ago to give services that one of my favorite poets is David White. And I would highly encourage you to watch one of his little YouTube presentations because, of course, the way he reads his own poetry is quite amazing. He has a new little book. It's a small book, but so impactful. Each poem you have to read at least twice to really capture the sense and the depth of what he presents for us. This is part of Still Possible. It is still possible to be kind to yourself, to drop constraints and fall often to your knees. It is not too late now to bow to what beckons. The world still swimming around you as you kneel, transfigured by what sweeps on. It's still possible to leave every fearful former self, in the wake of newly heard words ensuing from an astonished mouth. It's still possible to feel your body as fully here and fully you, but still not quite your own, to find you can live both entirely as yourself and in this lovely anonymous multitude of all the elements that surround you. And you have always been brother, sister, to the clouds beyond the window. You have always lived your secret, unspoken marriage of the pale blue sky for many years than you could ever remember. It is still possible. It took you so long to see the way. Understanding rises from the very center of your own body every day, luminous from arriving waves of what only seems like the ordinary. This week, we have all been touched. Maybe the only the only goodness that could come out of the Uvalde terrorism of these young children, the only goodness is that all of our compassion stretches toward them, not just in UU churches, but in Catholic churches, in mosque, all around the world. People that are churched and unchurched, any human being on this earth that has heard this story is sitting in mourning and grieving and wondering what can be done. And so we take this moment because it is still possible for us to look at tragedy and offer compassion and gather together and regain some strength to move on.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but in finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely touched my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second rate, hand me down. Now I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I looked, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then, 'cause everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down. Now I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
We gather this morning holding at least two big events at the same time. Tomorrow is Memorial Day, and for those who sacrificed their peaceful lives to grant that our freedoms would be extended, even though the decisions were made by others, we offer our gratitude to those who went to war and sacrificed their lives. They knew what the risks were. This week, the young children that got perfect attendance awards and wore special spring outfits for end of year celebrations, they did not know that they were going to be sacrificed. In our meditation, I want you to think about this phrase, the great turning. It is time for a great turning. It's time for a great turning of minds from defending causes of killings to creating policies of protection. It's time for a great turning of hearts moving toward each other in compassion rather than away from each other in rhetoric of self-righteousness. It is time for a great turning to use actions of lawmaking instead of literal interpretation of ancient amendments. May our turning, our great turning, lead us as Unitarian Universalists to still offer the thoughts and the prayers, but to transcend thoughts and prayers to create a reality of respect, not of respecting artillery, but respecting humanity. I offer you this moment to please close your eyes and think about where you will be in the great turning in our shared silence together. dear most ultimate power of love and understanding, offer us grace to move forward, mixing our anger, our frustration, our hopefulness together. Hopefulness that we will move as Unitarian Universalists, adding our spirituality to real change, adding the word religion when needed to real change, to move this world to a place of protecting the innocent and one another. So be it. The candles that have been lit today all provide illumination to the internal voices, those non-words that are brought to us in that light. May each candle and what it represents serve to remind us that we too have a divine spark of life within us. We carry that as the chalice represents, to move out into the world, to be the best that we can, the most open that we can, the most compassionate that we can. So I haven't been here in a couple years, so one of the first things I have to tell you is the sermon I'm about to give, I wouldn't just give in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And I really mean that. I've served and given sermons across the last 30 plus years in many congregations, and some of the UU congregations are still holding on to humanism like this, when humanism really is intended to be like this. And that is how the people here in this congregation, as I've perceived them, hold on to humanism with open minds and open hearts. And so here we go. So one of the benefits of being a Unitarian Universalist in general is that we're able to reach above and beyond any one creed or guide as we're invited to connect ancient spiritual teachings with modern spiritual teachings. My favorite guy, Ralph Waldo Emerson, shares my birthday, May 25th. And he was part of the group of the Transcendentalists in the early 1800s. They opened their idea of spirituality to us by emphasizing divinity as inherently within all nature and all humanity. One of the things I like to say when I'm describing Unitarian Universalists, for example, the seventh principle, that we're open, that we do not see the whole of nature that we're stewards of, that we're in charge of. The only reason we would be in charge of a dolphin is because we don't understand what the dolphin's saying, because I think that the dolphin could definitely be more in charge of giving us some lessons. So using Plato's teachings with Immanuel Kant's teachings, we as Unitarian Universalists were given a foundation of analyzing our experience through reason and through nature. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that the Buddhist is a transcendentalist, acknowledging that concepts of unity and flux are basic foundation thought to both. As a matter of fact, when you put matter and spirit together, they're not opposed, which is beyond, or a trans nature can be revealed through nature. So before I move on, I'm going to give you the first lesson in Buddhism that I think is very relevant and makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm going to make it make sense to you no matter what. So some of you have studied Buddhism, or you realize some of the teachings in Buddhism include attachment, correct? Raise your hand if you've heard that connection before. So if we apply this in a practical way, attachment can be, I hate to bring it back here, but it's on our minds anyway. So attachment can be anger and frustration over what happened in Uvalde with 19 children and their teachers being shot. So we're angry, and sometimes we have to get up from dinner tables or turn off the news or turn on the news for more information because we are so angry. We are actually attached to the anger. Now, here is a shift that you all are going to be able to apply on many occasions, probably today and during the next week, and I'll be so lofty to think the rest of your lives. The difference between attachment and connection is this. Connection says there is anger. There is sadness. There is helplessness. It doesn't say, I am angry, I am sad, I am helpless, I am fearful. It says there is. There is still room for you to be in there, that is, but it also connects you to everyone else that has that feeling, that emotion. And in that connection, you expand from the best sermon and the last sermon and the only sermon needed, from me to we. And so it's not about your personal anger or your personal love affair with chocolate ice cream. There is love of chocolate ice cream. Not I love chocolate ice cream. Who do you think you are? Are you the only person that loves chocolate ice cream? When you say there is love of chocolate ice cream, and then I ask you to raise your hands, then I know that there's a little chocolate ice cream club out there. And there's an anger club out there. And there's a hopeful and a hopeless club out there. And I'm a part of it. So that is, to me, one of the easiest practices of Buddhism that you can remember, that's going to make a shift in your consciousness and the way you approach something. It also means that I don't have to prove to you why I am angry or why I love the chocolate ice cream. When I say there is anger, there is fear, it engages a dialogue. And then you rush in with all the UU principles of respecting one another by listening to one another instead of saying that I'm the only one. So that was the bonus lesson. That might be the only one you remember from today, and that's fine, because the next one isn't as clear, but we're going to go with it anyway. So, as evolving Unitarian Universalist, we can take from Buddhism, as we just did, transcendentalism, and dive deeper into how our dreaming and meditation and a good death experience. Leonetta, you didn't tell us that you were going to talk about a good death experience. Hopefully you only die one time, and I'm going to help you make it a better experience. We're going to take this journey of death. It transitions us from one dream state to the other. And so Henry David Thoreau stated that only that day that dawns, which we are awake, if we are to grasp the reality of our life while we have it, we will need to wake up to these moments. Otherwise, whole days, even a whole life can go by unnoticed. I will tell you that one of the clubs that I'm in with each and every one of you is losing someone we loved. We are all in the club of grief. We have all been transformed by grief in one way or another. No one's grief is bigger than another person's grief because we don't know how to measure the cellular changes that occurred when you lost your loved one. You don't know how to measure mine. I don't know how to measure yours, other than Ralph Waldo Emerson saying, the eye beams know it, the heart beams know it. So how we look at that death experience can be practiced in our dreams to learn to prepare for those last moments. Andrew Holecek, he's a scholar practitioner of Buddhism, and he studied cognitive neuroscience. He says he's a curist. He'll take truth wherever he can find it. His week-long intensive graceful entry preparing for a good rebirth caught my attention last summer. He works from the Shambhala Mountain Center in Colorado, and he offered this intensive online course. I suppose as we get older, even this taboo topic becomes okay. I've had work in hospice, grief counseling, and I've had to process the early deaths of my 2 adult children, and that has drawn me into these topics to try and understand death better. The types of experiences to expect, it is up to us to a certain degree. To a certain degree, it is up to us because those last moments are going to be a process, right, of letting go of the physical plane and going someplace else into the unknown. But the Buddhists teach us that the letting go is what is important. And this can be practiced in both meditation and lucid dreaming. And so the way that the lucid dreaming occurs, how many of you, without me telling you anything else, would know what lucid dreaming means? Okay, Whoa, I told you we have an involved group here. So lucid dreaming is the kind of dream that you have, and you know while you're dreaming that you're dreaming. It doesn't happen to all of us all the time. Sometimes it happens to us and it slips by us and we're not sure what happened. But one of the indicators is that if in your dream you don't see any footprints or shadows, sometimes you move through in an unimpeded way through matter, so like a ghost, or you might have miraculous superpowers. I used to have this reoccurring dream that I would move my legs like this, and I would go up, and then I could, go to the front of the concert, or I could leave the family party if the people were driving me crazy. I would just doot, 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 and up. Superpowers. Nobody pays attention to you in a lucid dream when you're speaking. It's like you're not there. And you're never going to see the sun or the moon in a lucid dream. How do you have a lucid dream? Sometimes you can practice certain affirmations before you go to sleep to encourage this kind of dreaming. And you can say things to yourself like, I would like to remember my dream. I am safe and powerful in my dream. And I will be gentle with myself through this process. Certain things like that. Now, why would you go through that? According to Andrew Holecek, as he teaches this Buddhist concept, is because in the dreaming process, right, we are letting go for a temporary time of our physical selves, which is very similar to what will happen at the time of our death. And so as we practice that kind of process of letting go and moving into a dream that we know that we're dreaming, we will be more familiar without having to feel like we're in control of everything. So that is one part with the dreaming. I'm going to move to the meditation part. Robert Thurman, what's his daughter's name? Uma Thurman's dad. Uma Thurman's the girl in the Pulp Fiction movie. But Robert Thurman is a very well-known Buddhist teacher and guru. He says it's not safe to die if you still have an unconscious mind. And so you need this consciousness that we're having around this death experience is very important, and it can happen in the dream state. So on to meditation. Some Unitarian Universalists are still dragging their feet with meditation because, of course, we should continue to argue with generations and thousands of years of proof that meditation works. Because if we didn't argue, we wouldn't be Unitarian Universalists. But for those of us that have been dabbling in meditation and wishing that we were doing it right, we want to do it right, we've seen some benefits. In the meditation process, you will also be practicing some of the processes that you will go through at the end of life. And that is this letting go again. And so as we meditate, whether people teach you the breathing in, the breathing out, the counting your breath, the images, the mantras, whichever, the yoga practices, whichever meditation teachings that you are practicing or have heard of, will move you into a place where you are having a goal, if you will, of a relaxed no-thingness. No-thingness. You're not thinking of a thing. You're just letting it go letting it be. The clouds drift, you have a thought, when is she going to be done talking? What should I eat for lunch? How can I ask her a question? She'll go on and on. Whatever it is, you let all those thoughts drift away. Now here's something, you all probably knew that. But the benefit here is that when you practice meditation, in between those thoughts are gaps. Even when we're thinking, even when you're trying to understand when I'm speaking and there's gaps in between every word, every concept. And it is said that is where the assimilation happens, in the gaps. And guess what? We're not in charge of the gaps. Most of us don't even realize there's gaps. Or I know if I think there's a gap, I'm going to fill it with something. Because that's what you need. If you're grieving, you have to be distracted. Let's go eat something. Let's create an art project. Let's dance. Now everybody said silence. Okay, we're going to go find a group and we're going to go be silent with the group. We want to fill in the gaps. But those gaps have sacred power, and they even have neurological studies that have confirmed that it's within the gaps that we're going to integrate all the workshops, all the great articles we read from the Atlantic and the New York Times, all the information from NPR. In the meditation time, the assimilation will happen. And so, then, these processes will feed on themselves, and that information will become part of you in a way that you couldn't have had it if you controlled it and listened to it. There will be times that you need the gap. Our friend Deepak Chopra, years ago back in the 80s, when we were all really cool. We were really cool in the 80s. I took a workshop with him, and he talked about what will happen when you meditate. When you meditate, you will either fall asleep, or you'll ruminate about the grocery list, or he would phrase it, you'll fall into the gap. It sounded like a commercial for that old clothes store. Fall into the gap. That's what we want to do. We want to fall into the gap. But we're not in charge in our ego. I am going to fall into the gap. No, I am going to let go and fall into the gap. So we're going to have a meditation for a moment. Not 10 minutes, not 5 minutes. It might be a minute. It might be less than a minute. I'm going to give you something that many of you have heard. The light and sound particles mixed for sonic approach to your karma. It's the most famous, most well-known Tibetan mantra. You don't ever have to remember this when you go home. You can remember peace, laughter, love. You can say joy, harmony, bliss. You can choose your own words, create your own mantra. All of it will work the same. But this one is Om Mani Padme Om. Everybody? Om Mani Padme Om. Again, Om Mani Padme Om. This is how fast the Buddhist monks do it. Om Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om. And they do it for hours and hours on. And then in group, we're not going to do it that fast. We're just going to close our eyes and we're going to say it twice and have a moment of silence. And then I'll come back for a closure. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. This type of meditation, that kind of mantra, if you're in a traffic jam and you know nobody drives as good as you do, you know that already. And you know there's orange cones everywhere across the state of Michigan. Om Mani Padme Om. You're wishing all the drivers space and harmony. You're wishing yourself that. You'll be surprised on how quickly and how differently you'll get to your destination. So, in closing, you know a lot more than you knew when you came in. You know about attachment versus connection. There is love. Maybe that's the exception, right? I am love and there is love. All other emotions make it there is sadness, there is hunger, and reach out to one another. And then the other piece is to practice that Disney song, Let It Go. Just let it go. Let it go. If you do that for 5 minutes a day intentionally, you'll want to do it 10 minutes a day next week. And the more that you do it, the more assimilation of everything that is happening in your life will occur. These archetypes, these approaches are held hand in hand with what we do as Unitarian Universalists. We want to refine our thinking, but we also want to trans our thinking and move into refining our spirituality as well. You don't just see with your eyes, Oliver Sacks said. You see with your brains. This is retraining your brain. And I will also let you know that what you've been practicing is one of the Bardos. And the Bardos are states of consciousness. States of consciousness in Unitarian in Buddhism will bring you to a place of being ready, being in preparation for all the hitching posts you have in your life and letting go of the hitching post and the connections. One more fun fact, because you always need something to talk about with your family later. What did I learn at church today? You know, you have 80,000 thoughts that course through your mind daily. 80,000. Maybe we can retrain some of those to be more compassionate and loving and positive. So be it. And now Mr. Murphy is going to invite all of you to sing along. I think since you're in a place of calmness, you have a choice. How often do you get a choice? To stand or to sit? I will say if you stand, it's easier to sway. I'm going to stand as you are willing and able. And the words will be on the screens.
I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry and heart can say, I've been sailing on beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
We'd like to take a few minutes, a time for generosity. There are 3 reasons why making a gift to the UCF is the right thing to do, at least 3. Your gift demonstrates your belief in the vital values and message we share with this community. Your gift makes you a part of the larger group whose gifts strengthen our faith community. It's easy to do. We invite you to join us as we take the collection by placing your offering in the basket in the back of the church as you leave, or use the QR code on your order of service if you want to try out the new technology stuff. For those of you at home, go to uuflint.org and click on the Donate Now button. Thank you all for the ways you support UUCF.
What began with words, you realize those words are held up, just as in the Blue Boat Home song, like the waves. The words are on the top of the waves, and you are the wave. You bring intention, you bring a history, you bring your experience, you bring it all to every moment. And you are prepared to move into this week and make the changes that need to be done to make this world a reflective, beautiful place. It is our Blue Boat home. So be it.
We extinguish this flame, and not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.